Hey, what is going on, guys? So here we have the premium Bandai HGUC Haze'n-thley II, and this thing is a very tall boy. I can tell you guys, he is a super tall kit. I know now that some people have been arguing that the kit is out of scale. The scale is not correct, that it's much larger than it should be. I don't know about that. I haven't checked to see what the actual height and scale of it should be, but it looks awesome, so I'm happy with that. It just looks awesome. I'm not one of those to really care too much about scale, so that doesn't bother me at all. This just looks awesome. I never thought we would actually ever get a kit of the Haze'n-thley II, so I'm just happy that we actually got this. It's, again, sucks that it's P-Bandai, but it's an awesome kit nonetheless. So as always, guys, before we get into it, thanks to USA Gundam Store for their support. Guys, if you want to check out some P-Bandai stuff or any other kits and everything they have on their site, check the link in the video description down below and use that coupon code there, ZakuAurelius10, to save 10%. So it does have a few accessories before we get into trying to talk about the articulation of this, so let's just go through those first. So first off, we have those cool open hand options like we had with the Wound Wart, where you have this kind of really iconic Advance of Zeta style open hand there. And then we also just have regular holding hands for holding the rifle, that being the long rifle, again the same one that came with the Wound Wart as well as the Haze'n II. And then this one, the camera on the top of this will fold open, if I can get that there. And then there's a little foil green sticker there for that. The handle is underneath for holding this in the hand, and you have this other part which will fold out to connect onto the back of the arm for when it's in its claw form or crow form, as it says in the manual. Then we have the option parts for that when these arms will open up like that. So I'll show you that in use here in a bit. We also have the little black wire which will be used with that as well. And it does come with a base. I'm not using this at the moment, I'm just having it on regular action base, but it does come with just this simple base that you can use for this as well, which has a different part which is used for when it's in its mobile armor mode. So we'll see that again in use in a little while. And then we have a bunch of parts here that are used for parts forming this when you're transforming it into this separate transformed modes. And then there's a handful of leftover parts as well. You have a bunch of them. They're just random leftover parts from the Wound Wart. They're not really of too much use or anything, so I'm not really going to bother going through those, but you have a bunch of leftover parts from the Wound Wart. And then it did come with some marking stickers, which I've placed them all on around here, but again, the marking stickers on the dark plastic aren't really going to be looking that great, but you've just got a couple of them to stick around there if you want, as well as just, of course, the foil stickers. Foil stickers are basically just for the camera, as you can see, for the eyes in there, for this camera on the top of the head, for these camera bits on the back part of that backpack there, for these cannons up over the shoulder there, and then there's some on the cameras inside on the leg parts, kind of leg parts of the Wound Wart there. These ones here on the butt ball, sort of looks like a bee's thorax, is that the right word? The back end of a bee. And the last one here, that little V there for the crotch, that red and yellow sticker there for that. So stickers are pretty minimal for this kit, and it does also come with this action base adapter for it. So you need this special action base adapter, which you'll plug onto just your regular 3mm peg adapter like that. Before we get into the articulation, I just want to point out how nice the color separation is on this. You have like little gray bits there on the side of the face. Of course, there's the V-fin, looks really cool as well. It's super thin, so be very careful with that. But just the yellow and red bits there on the chest, the vents in there, over around here. Just the gray and yellow bits there poking out on these giant back skirt parts and everything. So the color separation is really quite nice. And also, this thing has virtually no seams on any of the armor. All of the armor is designed in a way that you don't really have seams pretty much anywhere on this, really. So it's really nicely designed overall, and so it should be a really a joy to paint this kit and just work on it even further. So as for the articulation, all right, so the head will go up to about there and down to there, up and down. This red part on the top of the head, also a separate part, by the way, not a sticker. That's pretty awesome. In the stomach section, you have a little bit of forward and back movement there, not really a whole lot. As far as rotation there in the stomach section, it's not going to rotate or anything at all. Just the design of that just prohibits any rotation there at the hip section or the stomach section, unfortunately. As far as the shoulder movement, forward and back, you've got nothing. You can move this arm up like that. It's kind of weird. That's kind of for the transformation. That's just, the shoulder should, I think, probably generally just stay like that, and then the arms just move up like that. But you can move the entire shoulder up further like that. Just going to be looking a little bit goofier than it already looks. The elbow joint is also a little bit strange because you have like this upper joint there, which will give you a little bit of bend there, and then this forearm, this whole forearm and hand is all from the Wound Wart, so you have some Wound Wart parts again in here. some parts there like at the core, then for the forearms, and then in the legs you've got some wound wart parts as well. But this whole forearm part will also move out separately like that. So this part is kind of, this big huge part out the back is kind of like connected onto the back of the elbow joint essentially. This is like all elbow joint, and the forearm moves out of there, and then the wrist is on a peg that will rotate, and then you have a hinge there at the wrist as well. And as you can see, you've got some rotation at the base of the forearm as well. We've also got some rotation up there at the top of the arm also, so plenty of movement there in the arms. This skirting armor is pretty much all just fixed into place. That will transform as part of the transformation, but as it is, it's just kind of meant to just be stuck there like that. Same thing here for the back. These parts can like be spread out a little bit like that, but they're kind of just meant to be just straight back like that as they are. They're not really getting in the way of anything. And then the wound wart's back skirt, which is this part back here, which is now tucked up underneath these giant bits, can also move up and down a little bit, but it's just kind of, again, basically meant to just be stuck there. But you can see how we've got the wound wart's legs essentially are in there, folded up inside, which are making up essentially just the thighs of the Haze'n-thley II here. And that one part up in there is one of the very few parts on here where you will have a seam line on the part of the wound wart's legs that's folded up in there. But you can get the legs out to the side all the way to there, very far, but they're going to be kind of heavy, but they feel like they're holding up pretty well. Now the one weak point I will say though is that the legs are, you got these giant legs with a ton of stuff going on there. It's basically like a leg plus this whole extra giant massive stuff going on there, and it's basically held on via this one little peg into a polycap there. And this kit also uses very few polycaps. It only uses like maybe 8 in total, so there's not very many, but one of the very few is right there holding the entire leg up into this. So I have a feeling if you have this posted in like an aerial, like flying pose for a long time, it's very likely that leg is eventually going to fall off from there. So maybe put a little bit of glue on that peg, just make sure it's nice and tight. So because this kind of front skirt part is fixed like that, you can't really bring the leg forward, but if you bend the knee, as it were, a little bit, then you can kind of bring the legs forward a little bit like that. Is going to be kind of about it. So you need to bend the knee first so that this giant part, which is sort of like at the front of the knee, is out of the way of the front skirts there, and then you can get a little bit of forward movement there for a kind of raised knee a little bit. Now we do have a tiny little foot down here at the bottom, which can rotate a little bit side to side up underneath the foot. You have a little bit of detail there, not a whole lot. But there's one interesting point about this. If you pull off this part right here, see this part which makes up the foot and the base of that, can be plugged in at 2 different points here, a higher and a lower point. Now the manual shows you to connect it at the higher point, but it never shows you anywhere in the manual to connect it to this lower point like that, to have the foot a little bit further extended down like that. So I have a feeling if you want to have the kit just standing, I think when it's in its standing pose, it seems like it's supposed to be like that with the foot down in the lower position. That would make sense for it to be in a standing pose, to be standing like that. But it never mentions anything, as far as I can see, about that in the manual. So that's why I would assume that that's meant to be like that. But in the manual, it only shows you to construct it in the raised position like that. So I don't know. Now for a quick size comparison, here it is compared with the standard RX-78-2 high grade kit and the Odysseus Gundam. I'm not going to put all the I didn't feel like putting all the Penelope armor back on this again, but you guys can get the idea that it's much larger than even the Odysseus Gundam, which is giant as a 1/44 scale kit. So this thing as a 1/44 scale kit is going to be super, super tall. But again, it's just because it has gigantic legs. The main core of the body and like the head is all essentially pretty much like your normal 1/44 scale size that you would be kind of used to. It's just that the arms are extra long, the legs are super extra long and gigantic. So yeah, it definitely looks like a very tall boy. And this should also answer the question for you if anyone was wondering if the kit can actually stand on its own. It can actually stand on its own. It's a little bit precarious. I wouldn't breathe on it the wrong way because it's all balanced on those tiny little feet, but it can pull it off for the time being. Now, as I mentioned, this does transform. It has 2 different kind of transformations. You can separate it into 2 parts, the G top fighter and the G bottom fighter, or you can transform the whole thing, or transforming or connecting the top and bottom fighter together into the fully transformed just mobile armor mode. So we'll take a look at the top and bottom fighter separately first, and then the mobile armor mode. Alright, so here's a look at the top fighter, and the transformation is really not all that complicated. You just had to pull a couple parts, a few things apart. Basically, the center, the core of the torso, and the head are omitted, so you'll just have those parts left over that aren't actually inside of there. But you have some replacement parts to replace those. As we saw before, you have a bunch of parts that you'll use for parts forming these when you need to do the transformation. But personally, I think it works fine, and it all looks really cool. And I gotta say, the transformations of these kits, as you'll see with the next couple parts as well, they're really cool, and just the fact that they don't look like a folded up Gundam, and they don't really look like anything too much at all, but they do look cool, I'll give them that. They're pretty interesting looking, so I think they look pretty awesome. So let's take a look at the bottom fighter as well. Okay, and here's the bottom fighter, and I gotta say, again, super cool looking. I don't think I've ever liked any transformed Gundam as much as I'm liking this so far, and this is, I mean, if the top fighter was sort of like some weird sort of alien fighter jet sort of thing, this is like some weird alien sort of flying tank. I think it just, the legs folded up and the waist section, all that, it just looks gigantic and bulky and huge and awesome. It looks super cool, I gotta say, really loving this, but I think once we get these combined to make the full mobile armor mode, it's going to be somehow possibly even better. Let's find out. And alright, so if we had the alien fighter jets and the alien tank, this thing is definitely the alien battleship. It looks just so awesome now that it has this like a really awesome mix of just being heavy and looking like it's got a ton of firepower, but also at the same time really super fast, and just everything all comes together looking super cool. Definitely can easily say this is the coolest transforming kit that I've ever built, and yeah, I'm not a really big fan of transforming kits, but this one I really like. This is really super cool, so definitely huge points to this, where I think it really is going to be one of those ones that you're going to want to at least transform once just to check it out, see what it's like if you get this kit, even if you're the kind of person that doesn't normally go in for transforming your kits. Alright, so man, this is a pretty amazing kit, I gotta say. I mean, it's an expensive kit, even at the original list price it's expensive, and then in fact that it's P-Bandai, of course, for most people in the world it's going to be even more expensive, but it's pretty hard to deny how awesome this kit is, especially if you're an Advanced Zeta fan and you like Advanced Zeta designs. This thing, I'll just reiterate, I'm surprised that this was even made, and then the fact that it's made so well is just so great. It's so nice that they just really took the time and effort. It seems like somebody at Bandai really does appreciate and love Advanced Zeta, because I mean, the Wound Wart was fantastic. This is even better. I think just the transformations of this are just really, I don't even want to say icing on the cake. It's like an ice cream sundae on top of the cake. It's really awesome. The transformation is awesome. Just the base mobile suit is awesome. As you're seeing, it does have a little bit of trouble, I will admit, holding the rifle. It's kind of weird and awkward just because of the arms are weird, and then the rifle is just kind of weird. So holding that can be a little bit awkward, and then like the crow or the claw mode can be a little bit awkward just because you need to put the claw onto a second action base just to kind of hold that up, and so you need like one of the larger bases to be able to get that like far enough away from the mobile suit to look convincing. But aside from the weapon being a bit awkward, I mean, there's very little to complain about with this kit. Again, aside from the price, I will admit, but it does of course still have a couple of little missing color apps here and there, just with it being an Advanced Zeta kit. Advanced Zeta designs are, I think, probably pretty well known for having a ton of little tiny detail color apps all over the place, so there'll be that, of course, with an HG. I'm not surprised about that, but it's just something that you shouldn't really be too surprised about. They could have gone ahead and given us like a ton more stickers to fill in some of the little color apps, like little vents or little tiny bits in red or yellow, basically around on little parts, but I think it would have been pretty excessive. Then I would have been complaining about how many stickers the kit has. But as I said earlier on, I think the color separation that we do have is already pretty darn good, and just, yeah, nothing but good things to say about this kit, so I'm very happy with it, and really happy that they're making the Haze'n-thley II Raw. It's the second kit that's coming out, because like I said, I love the transformation of this so much that I'm going to want to keep, I think, one transformed like this, and then keep one in just the mobile suit mode. So it's cool that we've got the Haze'n-thley II Raw also coming out, so if you have both the kits, you can do that. You don't have to worry about having to choose between mobile armor mode or the mobile suit mode, so that'll be awesome. Can't wait to check out that kit. But we do also have the HGUC 2, which I just got here, so I'm gonna be reviewing that. Do need to still review the Primrose and a couple other things as well, so we've got plenty of Advanced Zeta stuff still yet to come. If you guys have any other further questions or comments about this stuff, do feel free to leave those down below, and if there's anything I missed, of course, feel free to leave that there as well. But again, thank you to USA Gundam Store for their support as always. Thank you guys for watching. I'll see you next time. Bye guys.